Picture this. It is exactly 8 o'clock at night. The day is finally, mercifully done. Welcome to FM Talks.
You've made it to the finish line.
You really have. You have successfully navigated the relentless stream of meetings, the looming deadlines, the endless family logistics, and just the million tiny choices that modern life demands of you.
Right.
You are a smart, capable, highly disciplined person all day long. You manage budgets, you manage people, you keep a household running. But right now, as you finally sink into the couch, your mental battery is flashing a glaring red 5%.
It's totally depleted.
Completely.
Yeah.
And that is when it begins. It is not a gentle suggestion. It is an overpowering, undeniable magnetic pull toward the kitchen. The 8 p.m. snack attack has arrived.
Yeah.
And it feels like you are completely powerless to stop it.
It is such a familiar scenario. I mean, you spend your entire day making excellent decisions, managing complex problems at work, keeping everything on track, only to feel like you are at war with your own pantry the moment the sun goes down.
An absolute war.
And usually that battle ends with a profound sense of guilt. You know, you eat the thing, you feel terrible about eating the thing, and you promise yourself you'll be quote-unquote better tomorrow.
Always tomorrow.
Exactly. But today, we have a companion guide with us that completely reframes this entire evening guilt spiral. It's called 10 Minute Simple Desserts.
Which sounds amazing already.
It really is. And I think it is going to fundamentally change how you understand your own rhythms.
And just to be incredibly clear right at the top, because, well, I know how these conversations usually go.
Right.
Our mission today is not to hand you a list of banned foods.
No.
We are not creating restrictive meal plans, and we are absolutely not going to ask you to rely on willpower.
Because willpower is exactly what runs out at 8 p.m.
Exactly. The mission today is to find what this guide calls sweet peace.
I love that phrase.
It's so good. It is the very real ability to enjoy a delicious, indulgent evening treat that leaves you feeling satisfied, calm, and grounded.
Completely free from the guilt.
Yes, free from the guilt and without that terrible physical crash the next morning.
I was reading this section on the root cause of evening cravings, and it completely changed how I look at willpower. It breaks down a core insight that shifts the entire paradigm.
Okay.
The insight is this, that 8 p.m. craving is not a moral failure. It is a biological survival signal.
A survival signal.
Yes. If we look at this from an evolutionary perspective, our brains are not designed for modern convenience.
Right.
We are basically walking around with hunter-gatherer hardware. For thousands of years, if you were exhausted and your energy reserves were depleted at the end of a long day of foraging or hunting,
your brain viewed that as a life-threatening crisis.
Exactly. It didn't care about your long-term health goals. It cared about keeping you alive until tomorrow. So it flooded your system with signals demanding the most calorie-dense, high-energy fuel available.
That makes a lot of sense, but it's a difficult shift to make if you've spent decades thinking that giving into a craving means you just lack discipline.
Oh, absolutely.
We are so conditioned to think of diet and food choices as a test of character.
And that conditioning leads directly to the guilt spiral.
Right.
You have the 8 p.m. craving. You try to fight it with your sheer willpower. Eventually, you give in because the biological drive is too strong.
Because it's a survival instinct.
Exactly. And then you feel deeply guilty. But let's look at the reality of that 5% mental battery you mentioned earlier. Your brain uses a massive amount of glucose just to make decisions all day.
Just from thinking.
Just from thinking. By 8 p.m., you are experiencing severe decision fatigue. Trying to use a completely drained mental battery to negotiate with a primal survival instinct is a guaranteed loss.
It's not even a fair fight.
Not at all. When you try to fight a biological imperative with logic, you are essentially bringing a knife to a gunfight. Your biology will always win because its primary job is your survival.
That sounds beautiful in theory, but how do I actually make that happen on a busy Tuesday evening?
Right.
If I'm sitting on my couch and I am wired to eat the whole pantry, knowing it's just biology doesn't automatically stop my hand from opening the cabinet.
No, it doesn't.
How do you step out of that spiral in the real world when the craving is actively screaming at you?
You start by recognizing what the real drain on your energy actually is. The true energy drain isn't the cookie you eventually eat.
It's not.
No. The drain is the exhausting, hour-long internal war you wage with yourself before you eat it, and the heavy blanket of self-blame that follows.
Oh, that is so true.
That guilt consumes so much mental bandwidth The solution begins with what the guide calls the one-night promise.
So it's about removing the internal friction first.
Exactly.
The one-night promise is just for tonight. When that craving hits, you don't fight it, and you don't white-knuckle your way through it.
You just pause.
Take one breath, then you name it. You literally say to yourself, this is my body's biological signal. Yep. And finally, you make a promise to yourself to find a smarter plan for tomorrow. You let go of the guilt just for one night. You separate your identity from the craving.
And once you stop judging the signal, you can start getting curious about where it's coming from. Which brings us to a concept called the hook of hope.
I really like that.
Yeah. If we trace that evening craving backward, we usually hit a very specific point in the day, the 3 p.m. brick wall.
Oh, the afternoon slump.
That infamous afternoon slump.
Yeah.
And if we trace that backward, we almost always end up looking at lunch.
The afternoon slump. I think we all tend to blame our own lack of focus for that. Or, we tell ourselves we just have a slow metabolism or we didn't sleep well enough.
Right, we internalize it.
But it's interesting to look at the plate instead. The guide points out that the culprit is usually sitting right there in front of us in the form of naked carbs.
The concept of the naked carb is really the foundational piece of this whole puzzle.
Okay, let's unpack that.
Let's look at a typical workday lunch. Say you have a seemingly healthy turkey sandwich on white bread.
Or maybe a bowl of pasta salad.
Right, because the refined carbohydrates in the bread or pasta are naked, meaning they aren't anchored by a sufficient amount of protein, fat, or fiber. They pass through your digestive system incredibly fast.
They just rush right through.
They're converted straight into glucose and dumped into your bloodstream. And for about an hour, you feel amazing.
Right, you get that surge.
Your energy is high, you're answering emails, you feel incredibly productive. But look at the physiology of what happens next.
Right, because the body doesn't like having too much sugar in the blood.
Precisely. High blood sugar is actually toxic to the body. So your pancreas panics and releases a massive surge of insulin to sweep all that glucose out of your bloodstream and push it into your cells.
Just trying to clean up the mess.
Exactly. But because the spike was so fast and so high, the insulin response is often an overreaction. It sweeps away too much glucose.
Oh, wow.
So 2 hours later, your blood sugar doesn't just return to normal, it dramatically crashes into a valley.
And that valley is where the chaos happens. That crash triggers the brain's internal alarm system.
Red lights flashing everywhere.
The brain, which relies exclusively on glucose to function, sees the plummeting blood sugar, assumes you are starving, and screams for the fastest fuel available. Sugar.
Yes.
It completely sets the stage for the 8 p.m. snack attack hours before you even leave the office.
It's already in motion.
It really explains the afternoon sugar shake. That irritable, foggy, slightly trembly feeling you get when a coworker asks you a completely reasonable question at 3:30 and you find yourself snapping at them.
Yes, exactly.
It's not a personality flaw. It is pure physiology.
It is the bottom of the roller coaster. So the goal here isn't to ban carbohydrates entirely, which is where a lot of restrictive diets fail.
It's because the brain needs carbs.
The brain absolutely needs them. The goal is what we call flattening the curve. You don't have to give up the foods you enjoy. You just have to give them a buddy.
Our bodies.
You pair them with steady fill foods.
The hunger bridge.
Yeah.
This makes so much sense for a busy day. If you eat a naked apple at 2 p.m., it digests fast, spikes your sugar, and you crash by 4.
Exactly.
But if you anchor that apple with a spoonful of almond butter, the protein and fat from the almonds physically slow down the emptying of your stomach.
It acts like a brake.
They slow down the rate at which the sugar from the apple enters your bloodstream. It flattens the curve, and that snack becomes a hunger bridge that carries you steadily, calmly, all the way to dinner.
You arrive at dinner without that frantic, starving feeling.
Yes, you aren't ravenous.
It fundamentally changes the rhythm of your day. You are no longer riding the highs and lows. You are cruising on a steady stream of fuel.
It sounds so much more peaceful.
It is. But to really master this flow, we have to recognize that not every afternoon slump is caused by the same thing.
Oh, interesting.
The guide calls this doing your energy detective work. The afternoon slump is not a single mysterious illness that strikes us all equally.
Okay.
Think of your daily energy like a bucket of water. When you feel drained at 3 p.m., it means your bucket has a leak. But we all have different leaks.
So it's not always the sugar crash.
Exactly. The text identifies 4 distinct biological triggers for that afternoon wall.
Let's actually spend some time on those because
Yeah.
misdiagnosing the slump is exactly why we stay stuck in it.
Yes.
If you treat the wrong symptom, you don't fix the leak.
Right.
The first one is the daily rhythm dip.
This one is purely circadian. It is hardwired into human biology about 8 hours after you wake up.
So if you wake up at 6 a.m., this hits right around 2 or 2:30 p.m.
Exactly. Your body experiences a natural, pre-programmed dip in alertness. It is a slight drop in core body temperature and a peak in sleep pressure.
And what does that actually feel like?
It feels like a heavy, bone-deep sleepiness. It has absolutely nothing to do with what you ate for lunch. It is just a biological signal that your body would ideally like to rest.
That makes total sense.
In many cultures, this is exactly why the siesta exists.
But since most of us can't take a nap under our desks, we just suffer through it or chug coffee. Then there's the second trigger, the post-lunch radiator. This one feels different. It's so common in corporate environments or after a big weekend brunch.
Yes, the post-lunch radiator is all about digestion. When you eat a heavy, unanchored meal, say a massive bowl of pasta or a huge burger,
A really heavy lunch.
your body has to divert a massive amount of blood flow and energy away from your brain and muscles and send it straight to your gastrointestinal tract just to process the food.
It takes priority.
Digestion is an incredibly energy-intensive process. It literally generates heat in your core, like turning on a radiator in your stomach.
Oh, I know that feeling.
It leaves you feeling physically warm, heavy-eyed, and completely sluggish. Your brain is essentially operating on low power mode because all the resources are down in the engine room.
That is such a good analogy.
Mm.
The third trigger is one I think almost everyone misses, the drought factor.
Yes.
I am definitely guilty of this. I'll get to 3 p.m., feel completely foggy, and
Mhm.
realize all I've had to drink since 6 a.m. is 2 cups of coffee.
The drought factor is incredibly common. The human brain is roughly 73% water.
Wow.
Even mild dehydration, just a 2% drop in your body's water level, disguises itself as a tired mind, a dull headache, and a total lack of focus.
So you think you're tired, but you're really just thirsty.
Exactly. When you are dehydrated, your blood volume actually drops. This means your blood becomes thicker, and your heart has to work much harder to pump oxygen and nutrients to your brain.
It's working overtime.
You aren't necessarily physically exhausted from exertion. Your brain is literally struggling to get the oxygen flow it needs because the delivery system is compromised. Your brain is just thirsty.
And the fourth trigger is the dopamine surge. This one feels totally different from the others.
It really does.
It's not a heavy, yawning sleepiness. It's an urgent, restless, almost itchy craving.
Exactly. The dopamine surge usually happens after a highly stressful morning. Say you've been putting out fires, dealing with difficult clients, or managing a chaotic household.
Just constant stress.
Your brain has been bathing in cortisol and adrenaline all morning. By 3 p.m., when the immediate stress finally breaks, your brain is exhausted from the hypervigilance, and it wants a mood lift.
It wants a break.
It wants a reward for surviving the morning. It goes searching for a quick hit of dopamine, the pleasure chemical. And in a modern office or kitchen, the fastest, easiest way to trigger a dopamine release is highly processed sugar.
Which is why diagnosing your specific leak is so crucial.
Yes.
If you are experiencing the drought factor and your blood volume is already low and you try to fix it with a diuretic cup of coffee,
You are actually making the physiological problem worse. You are dehydrating yourself further.
Exactly. And if you are on a dopamine search and you eat a sugary cookie to get that hit, you just put yourself right back on the sugar roller coaster, guaranteeing a massive crash by dinner time.
It is about learning to interpret your body's language instead of just blindly reacting to the discomfort. Which brings us to a really practical exercise, the 3-day slump detective routine.
I think this is where the theory actually meets the road. For the next 3 days, when 3 p.m. rolls around and you feel that inevitable slump, don't just reach for the nearest snack or coffee. Just pause.
Just take a second.
Ask yourself what your body is actually feeling. Is it a bone-deep tiredness? Is your core warm? Do you have a dull headache? Or is it a restless, agitated craving?
Just name the trigger without judgment.
Once you know what the leak is, you can actually apply the right patch.
And understanding those specific daily triggers naturally leads us to look at our broader, long-term behavioral patterns.
The big picture.
Right. The guide uses a wonderful analogy here to explain why we get stuck in these patterns: the messy room.
Oh, I love this one.
If you have a messy room, you can spend all day picking up clothes and tossing them into closets. But if you don't have an actual organizing system, a specific place for your books, your shoes, your laundry, the room will always end up messy again by the end of the week.
Because there's no real structure.
You cannot outwork a bad system. The same is true for our eating rhythms. We need a framework to understand our behaviors, which means identifying our eater archetypes.
I really appreciate that the guide emphasizes these are patterns of behavior, not permanent identities.
That is so important to remember.
You aren't permanently broken. You're just currently operating within a certain framework based on your lifestyle.
Exactly.
There are four main archetypes to look out for. First, the erratic eater.
The erratic eater is usually someone who is simply moving too fast. Think of a busy executive or a parent juggling 3 kids' schedules.
Constantly on the go.
They wake up, have a black coffee, jump into back-to-back meetings or errands, and completely skip lunch because they are slammed. They might grab a handful of crackers at 2 p.m. just to quiet their stomach.
Just to get by.
But by the time evening rolls around, their body is in a state of absolute biological panic. The blood sugar is completely bottomed out, and this leads to uncontrollable, frantic night eating.
They aren't eating for pleasure.
No, they are eating to survive the deficit they created during the day.
Then you have the dopamine seeker. This goes back to what we were just talking about.
Right.
This archetype eats for a mood lift or a reward, not out of physical hunger. For them, food is a source of comfort, a distraction, or a much-needed break from a highly stressful, monotonous day.
It's an escape.
The evening treat isn't about fueling the body. It's about soothing the mind.
The third is the judgmental eater.
Oh, I am intimately familiar with this
I
one.
think a lot of people are.
This is the perfectionist who is stuck in toxic all-or-nothing thinking. They rigidly label foods as morally good or morally bad.
Yes.
They might have a perfectly anchored salad for lunch, but then a coworker brings in donuts. They eat half a donut, and because they've labeled that food as bad, the guilt immediately sets in.
The alarm bells ring.
The internal dam breaks, and their brain says, well, the day's already ruined. I might as well eat whatever I want and start over tomorrow.
And it spirals into a full binge over one minor deviation from the plan.
It's the psychological weight of the rules that causes the binge, not the food itself.
Exactly.
And finally, we have the decision fatigue snacker.
Yes, the fourth one.
By the time the evening arrives, they have made hundreds of micro decisions at work, navigated traffic, figured out dinner for the family, and their mental energy is completely depleted.
There's nothing left in the tank.
They just grab whatever is fastest and easiest, usually highly processed, easily accessible snacks right out of the bag because they simply cannot fathom making one more choice, let alone preparing something from scratch.
Walking through these profiles is actually such a relief.
It really is.
To realize, oh, I'm not lacking willpower, I'm just a decision fatigue snacker. Or I'm not greedy, I'm just an erratic eater who forgot to eat lunch.
It completely removes the shame.
It gives you a roadmap. The practical setup here is a one-day self-discovery.
Just one day.
Just for one day. Observe your choices through the lens of your archetype. Don't try to change anything, don't restrict yourself, just watch your own rhythms.
Notice when you skip a meal, or notice what you say to yourself after eating a treat. It takes the emotional weight out of the equation.
Removing that emotional weight is critical because it allows you to see the external environment much more clearly.
Right.
When we aren't blinded by guilt, we can start to see how our environment is actively working against us. And this is where we need to expose the hidden traps.
The things we don't even realize are tripping us up.
There are 3 environmental traps that secretly drain your energy every single day, sabotaging your best intentions. The first one is perhaps the most insidious because it masks itself as a good choice.
What is it?
The healthy snack trap.
Oh, the health washing. It is everywhere. It actually makes me angry when you realize how prevalent it is.
It's so frustrating.
You go to the grocery store and you grab a granola bar, a green smoothie, or a package of trail mix because the packaging is covered in earth tones, matte finishes, and words like natural, artisanal, and wholesome.
Yes, they design it to look perfect.
We have been conditioned since the fat-free craze of the 1990s to associate certain buzzwords with health. But the body doesn't read the marketing copy.
No, it doesn't.
The body doesn't care if the word organic is printed in a lovely green font on the label.
Exactly. The physiological reality is that your body just sees unanchored sugar. Let's take that natural fruit smoothie you buy at the cafe.
Okay.
It might have organic apple juice, organic honey, and some blended fruit. But without sufficient protein or fiber to slow down the digestion, because the blending process obliterates a lot of the structural fiber that natural sugar hits your bloodstream just as fast and just as hard as a candy bar.
That is wild to think about.
It triggers the exact same insulin response, the exact same sugar roller coaster, the exact same spike, and the exact same crash.
Which means we need a quick pantry audit. It's such an effortless daily adjustment, but it requires ignoring the front of the package entirely.
Ignore the marketing.
You just take your favorite go-to afternoon snack, flip it over to the nutrition label, and look at the ingredients. If sugar or any of its sneaky aliases like organic cane juice, brown rice syrup, or agave is in the top 3 ingredients, and the protein is under 5 grams, you have found a trap.
It's a trap.
It is health-washed. It is going to cause a crash no matter how healthy the branding looks.
The second hidden trap is one almost everyone relies on to get through the day, the caffeine loop.
Coffee.
We view caffeine as an energy creator. We think of it like putting gas in a car, but the biological reality is that caffeine is merely an energy borrower.
That distinction is a huge paradigm shift.
Okay.
Let's talk about the mechanics of how caffeine actually works in the brain, because it's not what most people think.
Right. Throughout the day, as your brain works, it produces a byproduct called adenosine.
Adenosine.
Adenosine is essentially a sleepy signal. It binds to receptors in your brain, and as more of it builds up, you feel more and more tired.
Makes sense.
What caffeine does is chemically fascinating. Caffeine molecules are shaped very similarly to adenosine molecules.
Oh, I see where this is going.
So when you drink coffee, the caffeine races up to your brain and plugs into those adenosine receptors, blocking the actual adenosine from getting in.
It takes up all the parking spots.
Exactly. Caffeine doesn't give you new energy. It just temporarily blocks your brain's ability to feel how tired it actually is. It is essentially taping over the low fuel light on your dashboard.
But the engine is still running out of gas.
Yes.
And meanwhile, that real adenosine is still building up in the background. So when the caffeine finally wears off, all that built up adenosine floods the receptors at once, and you get a massive crash.
A huge crash.
You feel awake in the moment, but you are literally stealing from tonight's deep sleep to pay for today's focus.
And because that caffeine lingers in your system for hours, the half-life of caffeine is roughly 5 to 6 hours, it disrupts the architecture of your deep sleep that night.
Which ruins the next day.
Right. Ensuring you wake up the next morning with an even lower mental battery, making you rely on even more caffeine just to get to baseline. It is a vicious, self-perpetuating cycle.
Okay, swapping a double espresso for sparkling water sounds nice, but honestly, if I'm dead tired at 3 p.m. and staring at a spreadsheet, water does not sound like it's going to cut it. How does a glass of water actually compete biologically with caffeine?
It's not just about drinking water, it's about a physiological shock to the system. The fix for this is what the guide calls sensory zing.
A sensory zing.
When that 3 p.m. fog rolls in, instead of reaching for a Band-Aid that steals your sleep, you swap the coffee for an ice-cold glass of highly carbonated sparkling water with a heavy, generous squeeze of fresh lemon or lime.
So it's about shocking the nervous system.
Exactly. You are activating the trigeminal nerve. The intense cold, the sharp bite of the carbonation, and the sour shock of the citrus combine to create a massive sensory input.
To jolt.
It sends a jolt to your nervous system that wakes the brain up naturally and instantly. It forces you into a state of alertness without altering your neurochemistry or incurring any sleep debt for later that night.
That makes a lot more sense. The third trap is completely physical. The sitting slump.
The sitting slump.
The guide uses the metaphor of a sleepy river. We don't often connect our posture to our energy levels, but the circulatory system is essentially a river delivering oxygen and nutrients to your brain.
Right.
When you sit in a chair, hunched over a laptop for hours on end, you are kinking the hose. That river slows to a sluggish crawl. Blood pools in your lower extremities.
Nurse is there.
Your brain is suddenly deprived of a robust flow of fresh oxygen, and it interprets that lack of flow as pure exhaustion.
We constantly mistake a lack of oxygen for a lack of energy. We think we need a snack or a nap, when what we really need is circulation.
Yes.
The solution isn't to rest more, it is to get the river flowing again.
You set a preemptive alarm for 2:30 p.m. before the slump even hits, and you take a movement snack.
A movement snack.
It doesn't mean changing into workout gear or going for a run. You just stand up, do a few stretches, or walk up and down a flight of stairs for exactly 3 minutes. Let gravity and muscle contraction push that blood back up to your heart and your brain.
Get the system moving.
It gets the oxygen river flowing again, and it's amazing how quickly the mental fog just lifts.
Now, assuming we've cleared these tracks and stabilized our energy during the day with anchored meals and sensory zings, we still have to face the final hurdle. 8 p.m.,
We're back to the evening.
even on a good day, by 8 p.m., the brain is tired. You are experiencing some level of decision fatigue.
Always.
If your kitchen is full of friction, meaning it requires mental effort, planning, or willpower to make a good choice, your tired brain will automatically choose the path of least resistance.
The path of least resistance.
It will look for the calories that are easiest to access, which usually means tearing open a bag of chips or grabbing a sleeve of cookies.
This is where the real behavioral design happens.
Yes.
The solution to 8 p.m. decision fatigue is the Saturday setup, specifically creating the three-shelf pantry. You are designing an environment where the right choice is actually the easiest choice. You are making your Tuesday night foolproof by doing the thinking on Saturday morning.
The setup is brilliantly simple, but it requires a minor shift in how you organize your food. You dedicate specific, highly visible zones in your kitchen, one in the fridge, one in the pantry.
Yeah.
You organize them into 3 shelves. Shelf 1 is the basics. This is your protein foundation. These are your anchors. Things like plain Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, perhaps a high-quality protein powder, things that provide steady, slow-burning energy.
Shelf 2 is the mix-ins. This is where you keep the elements that add sustained flavor, healthy fats, and fiber. Natural nut butters, chia seeds, hemp hearts, or spices like cinnamon and nutmeg.
And shelf 3 is the toppings. This is crucial. This is for texture and joy. Sliced almonds, frozen berries, dark chocolate chips, toasted coconut flakes. This shelf ensures you don't feel deprived.
The Saturday setup is literally a 20-minute weekend project. You just clear one small area of your fridge and pantry to establish these 3 zones. And the reason this works so incredibly well is because of what the guide calls the assembly method.
The assembly method.
At 8 p.m., when you are exhausted and your battery's at 5%, we do not bake. We do not measure ingredients for a complex recipe.
No measuring.
We assemble. The thinking, the organizing, and the decision-making are already completely done for you. You just pull from the 3 shelves.
Which brings us to the actual execution, starting with something the guide calls the yogurt cluster secret.
Oh, this is so good.
This is a masterclass in satisfying the brain's biological demands without the physiological cost. At night, your brain craves texture. It wants the satisfaction of a crunch, followed by a soothing creaminess. It's looking for a job well done reward.
The yogurt cluster perfectly delivers that sensory experience. It's so simple. You take a source of natural sweetness, like frozen blueberries or raspberries from shelf 3, and you wrap them in a protein anchor, like a thick Greek yogurt from shelf 1.
Right.
You spoon these little clusters onto a parchment-lined plate, freeze them for about 20 minutes, and then drizzle or dip them in melted dark chocolate. The cold yogurt hardens the chocolate almost instantly.
When you eat it, you get the sharp snap of the dark chocolate, the rich, creamy tang of the yogurt, and the cold, sweet burst of the berry. It hits every single sensory requirement for a highly indulgent treat.
It feels like a real dessert.
But functionally, the protein from the yogurt and the fat from the chocolate completely anchor the sugar from the fruit. It satisfies the psychological craving for dessert, but it leaves you in a state of sweet peace. Your blood sugar remains stable, there is 0 spike, and 0 crash.
And for those nights when you don't necessarily want crunch, when it's been a long, hard day and you just want deep, creamy comfort, the guide offers the 10-minute fro-yo hack.
This is a perfect example of removing friction. You simply keep a basic ice cream maker bowl permanently in your freezer.
Yes. When the craving hits, there is 0 setup time.
None.
You pull out the frozen bowl, pour in a high-protein flavored Greek yogurt or a plain yogurt blended with a little honey and vanilla from your basic shelf, and let it spin for 10 minutes. The machine does the work while you wash your face or get into your pajamas.
It's working for you.
You end up with a thick, rich, creamy frozen yogurt. You can add your shelf 3 toppings, maybe some crushed walnuts or a few chocolate chips, and you have an incredibly indulgent dessert that is entirely protein anchored.
Yeah.
Feels like a massive treat, but biologically, it's keeping you perfectly steady. High pleasure, 0 guilt.
And as you implement these rhythms into your life over a few weeks, the anchored carbs at lunch, the sensory zings in the afternoon, the assembled desserts at night, you start to experience a profound physical and psychological shift.
It really changes things.
The frantic panic voice goes completely quiet. Your brain literally undergoes neuroplasticity. It rewires itself.
That is incredible.
It learns to prefer the steady, reliable energy of anchored foods over the chaotic, stressful thrill of a sugar rush. You stop craving the roller coaster because your body recognizes how much better it feels on solid ground.
It is a beautiful quiet to just go through your evening without obsessing over what's in the pantry. But there is a final hurdle that a lot of us face, and that is the fear of backsliding.
It's a very real fear.
The pressure to perfectly maintain this system in a messy, unpredictable world. When you travel for work, when the kids get sick, or when life just gets incredibly stressful, it is easy to worry that you will lose this new sense of balance and slip right back into the guilt spiral.
To protect against that, the guide suggests a very simple practice, the Daily Win Journal.
The Daily Win Journal.
It doesn't have to be a long diary entry. Just taking a moment, perhaps right before bed, to consciously acknowledge how good it feels to have steady energy. Writing down, I anchored my lunch today and didn't crash at 3 p.m. Acknowledging the win helps lock in the habit.
It reinforces the good choices.
And beyond that, the guide provides 4 golden rules. These aren't rigid, punishing restrictions, they are a compass. They are designed to guide you when life gets chaotic and you can't perfectly control your environment.
Let's lay out that compass, because this is how you carry this sweet piece with you anywhere, whether you're in your own kitchen or an airport terminal. Rule number 1, anchor every carbohydrate.
Anchor every carbohydrate.
Never eat a carb naked. If you are at a hotel breakfast buffet and you really want a pastry, have the pastry. Just find a protein buddy for it. Eat a hard-boiled egg or some Greek yogurt alongside it. You get the joy of the food without the biological crash.
Rule number 2, use the preemptive strike. Don't wait for the slump to hit you. If you know you always experience a biological dip at 3 p.m., eat a small, anchored hunger bridge snack at 2:30. Get ahead of the curve so the panic voice never even wakes up.
Rule number 3, harness sensory triggers. When you feel tired in the afternoon, don't automatically reach for the caffeine band-aid. Wake your brain up with a sensory zing, like the cold, sparkling water and citrus, to protect your deep sleep for that night.
And rule number 4, simplify the environment. Rely on your 3-shelf pantry. Remove the friction so that when you are tired, the healthy, anchored choice is the absolute easiest, most obvious action you can take.
It really is a complete operating rhythm for your day. It changes how you view your own behavior. It takes the morality out of eating and replaces it with biology and preparation.
Consider this. How much of your life's precious energy has been spent fighting your own biology, fighting the cravings, fighting the guilt, fighting the afternoon fog, fighting the scale?
So much of it.
When you finally put down the weapons, stop relying on sheer willpower, and actually partner with your body's natural rhythms, what incredible things will you be able to do with all that reclaimed mental fuel and freedom?
If you want to dive deeper into these ideas, the full guide is available on Amazon. You can find the link in our bio. It's a perfect deep dive for a quiet afternoon. Thanks for listening to FM Talks.